Hello and welcome to Pete's Box of Stuff. My name is Pete and I have a box with a lot of stuff in that. This is the second video about how to use vintage M42 lenses on digital cameras. And in this video, I will be talking specifically about adapters, just as I said, promised in the last video. And if you haven't seen it, the link is somewhere up there. I was talking a bit about why we even would want to shoot with these old lenses. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? So let's roll the intro. Adapters, lenses, and some tips and tricks for working with them. Yeah, I want to start this video with a little warning. I said that in the last video already. You have to be a bit cautious with these lenses because these lenses, under certain circumstances, can damage your DSLR. And this is really just an issue with DSLRs, with certain DSLRs, to be more precise, with full frame DSLRs. So what can happen? What could happen? How can you avoid that? The thing is, if you put the lens on the adapter, right? You just screw it on the adapter. And if nothing of the lens itself sticks out, then you're safe to go. No problem whatsoever with no camera, not with a DSLR, with a mirrorless, not with a crop sensor DSLR, not with a full frame DSLR. The problem is if something sticks out there, it could happen that with full frame DSLRs, the mirror hits the lens. And so the mirror can get damaged, and that could become quite expensive to repair that. So I'd be a bit cautious with that. If you have a mirrorless camera, no problem at all, no mirror involved. I've been told that this is not an issue with crop sensor cameras because the mirror is smaller. It won't hit the lens. I'm not sure. I don't know if I would dare to try it. But, well, I heard that this shouldn't be a problem. So, but I don't have any M42 lenses that stick out. So, okay, let's talk about these adapters. There are, well, of course, there are different materials. I personally decided to get a metal adapter for the simple reason that they're more sturdy, right? They're more stable. There are plastic ones as well. I don't know if I would trust them too much in terms of how long they really will work. With metal, I think you're on the safer side. And there are, in general, two types of adapters. There are adapters with chips on them, chipped adapters, and there are adapters without chip. Adapters without chip, as long as they have the same mount as your camera, of course, will work with any model. No problem at all. If you have a chipped adapter, you have to get sure that the adapter is that the chip is compatible with your camera. What the chip does, we're going to talk about that a bit later. And there's one more thing that I want to mention, and that is that little step inside of the adapter. You see that little ring on the inside, that little step. That is also kind of important-ish. It is interesting for cameras, for lenses that have an manual or automatic switch, because this lens is set to manual right now. So I can, and I hope you see that, I can change the aperture, so I can open and close the aperture, oopsie, of that lens. No problem at all. So closed, right? So now, because everything is set at manual. If I set that lens to automatic, you see the aperture is open. And I can turn the dial, the aperture dial, as much as I want to. The aperture won't close. It will only close, and I hope you can see that, if I press on this pin, and then it will close. So what this ring does, the step ring does in the middle, is that it will just simply press this pin down so that you can control the aperture with even when the lens is set to automatic. Kind of sort of a safety thing, because you have to control the aperture manually on the lens anyway, because the camera can't control the lens. That is what you have to do with these manual lenses. You have to set the aperture and the focus manually on these lenses, and therefore you can only work with in full manual mode or with the aperture priority mode. So all other modes won't work, because all other modes of your camera will also try to change the aperture. So, but that doesn't work. So you have to do that manually. So with that having said, one more thing, maybe, no, two more things maybe. Since you have to focus manually, you might want to get sure that what you see in the viewfinder is really crisp and clear and sharp. And every camera, or most cameras, do have, at least those with a viewfinder, have a diopter setting. So set that correctly to your eyes. Very simple. Just look into the viewfinder, half press the shutter. You see in the display, I don't know, the shutter speed, ISO, lots of information, and just turn the dial back and forth until everything is crisp and clear and sharp. So for your eyes, so what you see in the viewfinder is really crisp and clear and sharp if you set the focus correctly. One more way to check whether everything is in focus is, of course, the live view mode, right? So not only checking afterwards whether something is in focus, but switching your camera to live view, zooming in after you focus, right? Or zooming in, and then maybe readjusting the focus. That is one way to get sure. Might not be the fastest way, but I don't think that if you shoot with lenses like that, that you even want to shoot fast. This is really slowing down. One reason why many people, other than the picture quality, of course, many of them have an amazing picture quality. Others have this kind of, every lens has its own kind of feel. Some are not really perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. That is the charm that some of these lenses have. One of the lenses I have, Russian model, has sort of a glow, really, really beautiful softness without losing detail. So yeah, I will definitely make one day another video when I compare the lenses with each other, or all the lenses that I have. I think I'm not really a fan of comparisons, but I think that might be interesting to compare the picture quality of lenses, and well, not in terms of this is better, but from an aesthetic quality. And also, even more important for me, how does the bokeh look like? You know, bokeh, the depth of, if we have a very shallow depth of field, how does that look like? And here's the thing, no, another thing that I found out, I forgot, is what didn't work for me, or what I found really strange, but it makes sense. I usually don't work with auto ISO. I don't know why my camera was set to auto ISO the day when I played around. And I found out that, at least with my camera, if I had the adapter with these lenses on, that apparently, because the camera didn't know the lens, right? So that, because they can't communicate, the camera didn't know which lens was on, didn't know anything. Does this lens have stabilization? Of course it doesn't. does this lens, which kind of focal length does it have? We're going to talk about focal length when we're talking about the chip a bit later. So what the camera did, obviously, because of safety reasons, just to get sure, it tried to get the fastest ever possible shutter speed. So I was playing around in low light, and the camera pushed ISO up to ISO 6400 to get a 1,000th of a second of shutter speed, which is absurd, right? So better restrict the ISO to, well, values that you think might work, and check the shutter speed. So I don't know, low light 400, 800, maybe 1600, and then check which kind of shutter speeds you have, and if they are okay-ish, then leave it. So don't use auto ISO. Okay, let's talk about the chip. What does the chip do? The coolest thing about chips like that, and again, the chip has to be compatible with your camera model. The chips I have, or the adapters I have, are compatible with my camera, the EOS 700D, Canon EOS 700D, the Rebel T5i, and focus confirmation works. That is what I was talking about. So you know that if you look through the viewfinder and you put something in focus and half press the shutter, then the red dot flashes up that something is in focus, or even the whole viewfinder flashes up red if something, or when something is in focus. That is focus confirmation, and that works if the chip is set correctly. It didn't work in the beginning, and that's why I had to re-record the whole video, right? Because I got it to working finally, because I found out that you have to, or I had to kind of calibrate or program the chip. My adapter didn't come with any kind of instruction, so I went to the website of the manufacturer and I found an instruction. It's I presume this must be the same with every chipped adapter, because I presume that these chips are made from the same manufacturer. So in case it doesn't work, check your manufacturer's website. In that case, it was pretty simple. I just it said just close the aperture completely. In case of this lens, it is f22. Then manually focus on something, right? Make the measurement, so metering, focus metering, and sorry. Again, let's do it again. Close the aperture completely. In that case, f22. So then focus on what you want to focus on, right? And meter everything. Meter the make the light metering. Usually, if your camera is set to default, focusing and light metering will work by half pressing the shutter. In my case, I have back button focus activated, so the light metering is half pressing the shutter. Focusing is on the back button, so I had to press both of them. Then set the desired aperture on your camera. In that case, I probably I used f1.8 because that is the aperture I wanted to use, and then set the desired aperture on your lens. So first the camera, then the lens, and then focus confirmation worked. This is one thing. Another thing that these chips provide are that they, well, give the camera information about which focal length is used, but you have to program the chip, and that is something that I didn't even find on the manufacturer's website, how to do that. I know that it is possible. I read that on Amazon, where I got the adapter, that there are instructions out there how to do that, and it seems to be a bit complicated. I don't know how that works. In case I'll find out, I'll make a separate video about that. But actually, I don't really mind, because I know which lens I used, and yes, the camera will write some really strange focal lengths into the EXIF data of your photos, but well, who cares, right? So Yeah, and of course, since you set the aperture in the camera, it will also write the aperture in the EXIF data of your photo. So that's it. That's everything I know so far about M42 adapters. If you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you have questions, if you have more information, please don't hesitate to comment. I also realized that I got a couple of comments lately on my YouTube channel, but I didn't see them. So please excuse that. I will pay more attention. So yeah, this one's for today. Bye bye. Till next time.
I'm pretty sure you want to subscribe to this channel.
Why do you say that?
Because